Welcome back to the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast for 2021. I'm Annabelle Bateman. I'm your host, and I'm excited to bring another year of all things thyroid to you. We launched last year in June. We've got 30 episodes. This will be episode 31. We've had, I think at this point, over 5,000 downloads. I'm so thrilled that you are on this journey with me. We're all in it together. I think 1 in 8 women, and I'm not sure the stats for men, a bit less than that, but certainly men can get thyroid issues as well. But 1 in 8 women have thyroid issues and many don't know. And so that's part of the mission of Let's Talk Thyroid, is to talk about our thyroid health, discuss symptoms and discuss the way we manage our health so that it gets that message out there, and it might help people who are listening and thinking, oh yeah, that sounds a bit familiar, really go get tested and dig into their health so that they can not just kind of trudge through the day, but actually feel amazing. I really do believe that we can thrive, we can have energy, we can sleep well, we can, we can actually be functioning at a really great level if we've learned how to manage our health well. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the value of having a word for the year. And this can be applied in many different areas of your life. I'm going to hone this conversation in just on our health, because that's the realm of this podcast is to do with our health and holistic health, really looking at our health from, a physical point of view, mental, spiritual, relational, the whole gamut. Welcome to Let's Talk Thyroid, where we explore different aspects of living a healthy thyroid lifestyle, positively and practically, to help you thrive and not just survive. Join me, Annabelle Bateman, your host, and let's talk thyroid. Now, if you've been listening to me for a little while, or you follow me on social media, or you're my friend, you'll know that I'm a massive words person. If you were to come to my house, you will see words stuck on pretty much not every wall, but in every room of the house. I've got affirmations, I've got scripture verses, I've got just words everywhere. I am a words person. So the idea of having a word for the year really appeals to me. I have words on my t-shirts, I have words on my jewelry. I really am a words person. And, but it was only about I think I worked it out, this is the 6th year that I've had a word for the year. Prior to that, I've been historically a big goal setter. I have written, goals for every area of my life and gotten a bit overwhelmed with it. And so when I came across the idea of just having one word for the year, which I was introduced to by my friend Emma, I've loved it. And it's been really, really powerful for me. And it could be, that you need a word for your health for this year, a word, one word, or a phrase, but I've just found having one word just to be really powerful. I'm going to tell you some of the benefits of having a word for the year, how to find a word. Like, do you just come up with one? Do you get one? Does it drop from the sky? I'm going to tell you how to find one. And I'm going to give you some, some of the ways that I have used those words, for my own health. And I'll run through some different ideas for some health words and really how to get the benefit out of having a word for the year. So let's launch in. What I would love it is if you are in if you're in my thyroid Facebook community, and I've just started a new community on gab.com. So if you're on that social media platform, just look for Let's Talk Thyroid and you'll find me there. Share your word. I love hearing what other people's words are, and whether this is a word that really cuts across all areas of your life or if it's just for your health, it doesn't matter. Just do what works for you, what you think is the right thing for you. So the benefit of a word is that one word cuts through. It just cuts through all the detail. It cuts through all the words of the goals and the New Year's resolutions and the I'm going to be this by that. And they're all valuable. A word is not a goal necessarily, but it is a guide. It's like a guide. So it cuts through a lot of that distraction. And because it's one word, we can, even those of us with thyroid issues that might have a bit of brain fog, we can usually remember one word. But I don't know about you, but if you've written, a list of New Year's resolutions or goals at the beginning of the year, it's so easy to just forget what they all are unless you're really actively working on them and maybe working with a coach. It's really difficult to hold yourself accountable to lots of goals, but one word just keeps it simple. And with that cutting through, the second benefit is it really helps you to focus. And maybe, if you remember last year, we talked about setting boundaries. There's a whole episode on boundaries and tough love and saying no. And when you've got a word that is your theme for the year or a bit of a guide, then it can help you actually to make decisions and focus, and be intentional with what it is you're wanting to do. For example, one year, my word for the year was strong, and that applied across a whole lot of different areas of my life. But from a health point of view, I wanted to be strong. And from a physical point of view, I wanted to be strong. I wanted to build, strength rather than aerobic fitness. So for example, if I had in my year of where strong was my word for the year, if I have started training for a marathon, which I would never do personally. Running's not my thing. But my word for the year is strong. I really want to build strength in my body. Right. I'm going to go sign up for, even if it was a 5K, 10K fun run, that just wouldn't, for me at that time, wouldn't have aligned. So whereas doing some Pilates and working on core strength would have aligned, going to the gym and working on a weights program would have aligned. So it can just help to really sort through your priorities and help you to focus. And another benefit I see of having one word is that because it is more of a guide, it's less guilt-inducing. And those of us with thyroid issues, we don't need any more stress. We're pretty good at being self-critical. We tend to be pretty good at heaping stress upon ourselves. So we don't need any extra stress by setting whole lots of goals and resolutions that, maybe we don't adhere to, that we in some sense we feel like we're failing at. And so that creates guilt and anxiety often, and often depression too. And then you don't make progress. And so there's that whole negative spiral. So one word, think of it more as a guide. Maybe it's a light in the path. And so then it just tends to be a whole lot less negative emotions and thoughts that go along with it. So there's just a few of the benefits that I've found of having a word for the year. So how do you actually find a word? How do you do that? Does someone write it in the sky? Does it drop out of thin air? Will it just appear on your screen? Well, it might, but that's not generally what I've found has worked. For me, coming up with a word for a year has usually been a process. And it has actually taken some time. So don't worry if this doesn't come to you really quickly. The process that I've worked through that I've found quite helpful for aligning my whole year, I guess, with more of what I want to focus on and less of, maybe leaving behind some of the things in the year before that I want less of, is to work through a 5-step process that I have designed. It's part of my Year by Design course that I've got. So if you're really wanting to delve into this and really kind of map out your year, then you might want to check out that, which you can find at annabellebateman.com/retreat. And it was originally designed as an in-person retreat or an online retreat. So the in-person retreat was last year, but you can do the whole thing as an online course, all video guided. But I'm going to just step you through the first 3 steps and give you some idea of how this process can lead into a word for the year. And you can do these steps in multiple areas of your life. So you might, in the full course, I encourage you to look at your relationships, your finances, your personal and spiritual growth, your physical health. It's a whole range of different areas. But for the sake of this, let's just focus in on your health. So the first step is to reflect. So look back onto the last 12 months and think about things like, how was my health? What did I do that worked for me? What did I do that didn't work for me? Did I learn, what did I learn about my health last year? Maybe what books did you listen to? What did you take any courses, for example, that were to do with your health. Just looking back on what you actually did, learned, both positive and negative. We're all often learning things that, from experience of things that haven't worked, as well as the things that have. So really take some time and grab a piece of paper and a pen and maybe just reflect 2020 on that page and write it all down. The good, the bad, the ugly. You might want to add in the podcast as something you got some benefit out of, I don't know. Or if there's particular episodes actually that you listen to, you might want to go back and revisit if there was a particular episode that stood out to you. As I said, any great books, articles, people that you follow, perhaps on social media in the health space that you want to keep, that have had an impact on your health. You might want to in there look at things like, your diet, your ability to manage stress, whether you've been actively trying to remove toxins from your life, whether, there are all the sorts of things, I guess, that, we talk about here. Mindset, that would be the other key pillar, would be, how's your mindset been over the last 12 months? So take some time. To do this well does take some time, but we're just focusing in on health here. So take that time to reflect on 2020 before you start to think about what do I want for 2021. So that's step one, is reflect. Step two is to dream. Now, dream is where you just let go of all restrictions and you think, wow, in the area of my health, just imagine what could it look like? What would be the dream outcome? And it doesn't matter if it is achievable in the next 12 months or if it's something that might be part of a process that takes much longer. It doesn't really matter. This is like the brainstorming session where there's no wrong answers. So again, take a separate piece of paper, write dream at the top of it. What are my health priorities for this year? Is it to sleep better, increase energy? Is it to lose some weight? Is it to feel less achy? Is it to change your mindset into a more positive mindset? Is it to learn to unwind? It might be a combination, it might be all of those things. But just so this is the brain dump, this is the no holds bar, just put everything down. What do you want? How could you move your body this year? What sort of physical movement would, in a dream world, what would you like to be doing, to move your body? What habits would you like to include in your routine? Is it to start taking some supplements? Is it to drink more water? Is it to use those essential oils that have been sitting on your shelf and you not using them on a regular basis? What is the outcome of some of these things? Is it that you have the energy to hold down your job without taking sick days? Is it to be able to play with the grandkids? Is it to be able to travel? I don't know if we can travel again this year too widely, but is it to travel freely? Is it it's just to have the energy to do the things that you want to do? This is where you get to dream. So that's why it's called dream. So you just dream, write everything down, really think it all through. And when you've done that, maybe go take a walk around the block or something after you've done that, have a bit of space, then go back and look at that page and identify what the top priorities for 2021 are. Because the reality is, whilst we might want all of those things, we're talking about here refining things into one word. So we're wanting to have a focus. Is there a theme? Is there one word? You don't have to pick up your one word yet, but what would be the priorities of what you've got there on your page? If you had to only pick one or two things to focus on, what would they be? And I know when I do this exercise often, if I focus on one thing, I know that some of the other things I've written down will flow on from that. Just really have a look at that and highlight or circle, just sort of jot them down, identify them in some way that, whilst everything on that page I would love to happen, these are the priorities. So the next step after dream is to create. And this is where you can create your vision for your health for the year and where the word of the year comes into. Now, there's lots of things that we can do around this creating, and this is where I love to use vision boards and affirmation words and words on screensavers and phone wallpapers and all sorts of things. Like I said, I am a words person. But first of all, let's hone in on finding a word for the year. I'm going to put in the show notes a link to download a list of suggestions. It's just a list of suggestions. You might come up with something completely different. In fact, my word for 2021 is not on that list, but it will be on next year's list because I will add it. My word, and I'm going to tell you actually what my words have been over the years because that might just give you some idea. They've not all been specifically health oriented, but the first time I had a word for the year was, I think I worked out it was 2016, and my word for that year was tranquility. And the year before that, I had written my cookbook. I'd pushed myself probably a little bit too hard. I knew that I needed to learn how to manage day-to-day stress. I'd been to see my doctor who prescribed me a week at a health retreat. And I'm not joking, she wrote it down on a prescription, and I should have done it. I should have gone. But what I thought in that process is I actually need to learn how to deal with the day-to-day stresses in my life because 1 week at a health retreat is not going to change my life. I needed to work out the daily things. And so my word for that year was tranquility. For me, that represented inner calm, building in some practices that changed my mindset towards unwinding rather than being wound up. And I found that really helpful as an overall theme. It was the year that coincidentally, or probably not, I discovered essential oils. And as I look back on my 5 years of using essential oils, probably the biggest overall thyroid health benefit has been in using them to manage stress and those sort of anxious feelings and just having that winding down. I started the year by going on walks through my local botanical gardens after I dropped the boys at school. I just think I became more aware of the importance for my own health to work on that unwinding process. The year after that, my word for the year was, I can't remember now if it was strong or shine. I think it was shine, which for me was not so much about health actually. I think I'd improved my health a bit by that point. For me, that was more about some of that inner letting my light shine, being a light to others, and not kind of shrinking back. The next year was strong, and that was definitely a word that traversed a number of different areas of my life, but in terms of the health was, like I mentioned earlier, it was about building that inner strength, that core strength. Definitely Pilates was a key part of that. I can't remember what else I did then, but, that was my goal, was my word for the year, my theme was strong. After that, then the next couple of years, I had strategic, which would have had some health implications and being quite specific, but that was more of a business oriented word. Last year was intentional, and again, that, I love to have words that actually traverse all areas of my life. And from a health point of view, I was very intentional about getting my shoulder sorted out last year. That wasn't really my dream, but at the beginning of the year, I ended up with some shoulder issues. I ended up having to be very intentional about that throughout the year. And I'm also, I'm usually quite intentional about my health, but again, that theme just really brings me back on track. If I was getting distracted, I'm pretty easily distracted by bright, shiny objects and something new and different. And so for me, intentional was about not getting distracted by things and just maybe bringing back to the core. Now, my word for 2021 is undaunted. I mean, I'm a little in a little trepidation having the word undaunted as my word for the year, but it pretty clearly stood out on the 1st of January after trying to really wrestle with finding a word for the year. And for me, when I really looked up what it meant, it means unshaken in purpose and unshrinking. And so for me, a lot of that is about this work with my Let's Talk Thyroid community and really being a voice for other thyroid patients and being clear with the book that I'm writing and not getting distracted and not being undaunted and overwhelmed by all those things, which really plays into the health side of it for me, that kind of the anxious worrying and the feeling overwhelmed by the tasks ahead. So from a health point of view, I don't want to be I don't want to be daunted. I want to have that. For me, some of that's building my faith and trusting that God has my life under control and can mark out the steps. And I guess we don't know what our health and our life is going to throw at us throughout the year, but I want to face that undaunted. I want to face it with courage and boldness and, with just being me. So they're the words that I've had for me. And I'm just going to pull out a few different word ideas. This is just off my list because I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll look at my list and I'll pull out the ones that really just relate to health to highlight with you. But as I went through them, not everyone relates to health, but so many of them do. So I thought I'm just going to give you the whole list. And what I suggest you do is you look at the list, look back at what you've written down for your reflections and for your dream pages and see what themes that might be coming up. And we want to make sure that whatever word that you have for your health is a positive one and not negative. Words are incredibly powerful, and we know that they have that ability to bring life or death, positivity and negativity. And so we want to make sure that even if you're thinking in what perhaps is a negative frame of mind, for example, even just with stress. So the year that my word was tranquility, like it could have been reduce stress or stress reduction or anti-stress or something like that. But for me, that word stress that has a whole lot of negative connotations. So that what I was trying to achieve was tranquility. Or another word could be unwind or calm or balance or peace. Different words will resonate with different people, but can you see how that sort of wanting to learn to manage stress better, the word had to be on what I was wanting to become more of, and I was wanting to become more tranquil. So some other great words that off the word for the year idea page that really could relate to your health would actually be things like heal. Maybe this is a season where your body needs to go into great healing, whether it's, gut healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing, mental healing, relational healing, physical healing, all of those things. Maybe that is your word for the year. Maybe it's something like hope. Maybe you've lost hope that you can ever feel good again. Maybe you've been given the runaround by doctors and, been told there's nothing you can do and you feel bit despondent, a bit hopeless. Maybe having hope as a word for your health is really powerful, and it will help give you that sense of anticipation. Things could get better. Maybe it would give you that confidence to try something new for your health. Joy. I don't know. When you've got a chronic illness, sometimes joy is not high up on the list, is it? We can, feel lack of joy. We can, get into that feeling a bit depressed and flat. So maybe joy, and you're wanting to bring joy or fun, actually, whilst it doesn't sound like it's a health word, could be a deeply powerful word for your health for the year. It could be curiosity. Maybe you're at the stage in your health journey where you're wanting to be more curious about how your body works, about how different modalities might help support your thyroid health. And you're wanting to do some more reading and research and find some books to read and people to follow and really dig into it. Maybe that, maybe just being curious, or empower. I think empower is a fabulous word for your health. Maybe you've felt disempowered and maybe you felt like your health has been in the hands of health practitioners that haven't been helpful for you, and you need to take back some of that personal responsibility and power for your health. So a word like empower might give you that theme to really maybe do that digging and find new health practitioners. You might want to, if this is you might want to check out the episode that I did on building your thyroid support team. That could give you some ideas around that. And just to really be empowered to take that responsibility for yourself. It could be thrive. I do talk a lot about thyroid thriving. Maybe it's that alliteration. It's more than just surviving, isn't it? And so sometimes with chronic illness, we just feel like we're getting through the day, we're surviving, we're coping, we're kind of putting up with things, or we're making progress that feels really slow, but we don't feel like we're thriving. But what does it mean to thrive? To have energy to do the things that you want, to have energy to flow and give into other people. what does thrive mean? That could be a great word for the year. So anyway, look, what I will do is pop that list. You can download it, print it out. And what I suggest you do is go through and just read them and just see, are there a few that actually stand out to you? And it might take you a day or two. It might even take you a week or two just to settle in on a word theme for the year. But when you do, this is then taking it to the next step, which really is part of this create step. And that is, what does that actually represent? Like what would it look like if you were achieving that word? And this is where a vision board can be really helpful. So grab some magazines, think of, find some word, you definitely probably want to have your word there on your vision board, and maybe some of what it means. Like on my vision board, for example, I've got undaunted. Because I couldn't find that word, but I printed that out. It's in the center of my vision board. I've got my Thrive card that I printed that's got those, different aspects of living a thyroid thriving lifestyle. Part of that is to remind me for myself that those things are really important. I've got a picture of someone walking. I want to start doing a bit more walking this year. I've got pictures of this beautiful tropical destination that I don't know whether I'll get there. It probably looks like Tahiti or the Maldives or somewhere. Probably won't get there, but maybe we can get to the Whitsundays or something like that, maybe for our 20th wedding anniversary, which is at the end of the year. So that's on my vision board. I've got a whole range of different things, but that represent, what I'm wanting to get out of the year. And with that word, I've got about writing my book. I've got leading this sort of thyroid wellness movement and being part of that and connecting in with other people who are doing great work in this space. I've got my vision board. I've also got my word for the year as a phone wallpaper screensaver, so that every time I turn my phone on, I see undaunted, shaken in purpose, unshrinking. So I've created that. And so it's also my screensaver for my computer. So it's all very well just to set a word, but we do need to be reminded. And so make it plain, make it easy, put it in places that you're going to see on a regular basis, just to help remind you. You might even want to get it made into a piece of jewelry. I've had a look at that. I got a beautiful bracelet from Lee for Christmas that's from a company here in Australia called Veralany, Veralany. I'll pop the link to that in the show notes as well. You can actually get these little discs that you slide in on over the bracelet with specific words. Now, I haven't got undaunted on that yet. Lee put some other beautiful messages on there for me for Christmas, but that would be a great idea. I've seen, there's plenty of lovely jewelry places. So if you really want that in a really special way, maybe making it into a bracelet or on a disc around your neck, they're all ways that we can really be reminding ourselves on a daily basis of our word for the year, our vision for ourselves and our health. So there you have it. That is my take on having a word for the year, and whether you want to hone that in on a word for your health. You might even want to have different words. That's possible. Really, it's entirely up to you. It's really just a tool to help you thrive in your health. That's the plan. Don't forget, if you've got a word or once you've got your word, I'd love to know what it is. So maybe make a comment in the online communities, or you can send me an email to hello@annabellebateman.com. Just tell me what your word is, maybe why you've chosen that word. And I would love to support you in that. I think it's there's something powerful too about sharing it with other people. It doesn't have to be broadcast everywhere if you don't want to do that, but just there's some level of accountability in sharing your word with others. And it helps encourage us as well. And that's a lot of what the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast is about. It's about creating that community, that support for each other, knowing that we're not in this thyroid journey alone. We are in it with each other. If you're having trouble finding a word for your health for the year and you'd like to talk it through with me, you're very welcome to book a free 30-minute strategy session. So you can do that via annabellebateman.com/strategy. We can just talk it through and I'll see if I can help you to really refine your word for your health for 2021. Keep an eye out for the next episode of Let's Talk Thyroid in 2 weeks' time. I'm making this a fortnightly podcast throughout this year whilst I'm working on the book, just so that I've got the capacity to do both. And so I'm looking forward to, throughout the year, bringing you some more experts in various aspects of thyroid health and sharing more of your stories too. So if you've got a thyroid story that you would like to share with others, maybe as a way of encouraging other people, then please send me a message. I would love to hear from you. I would love to chat with you and share your story on the podcast. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be complicated. We're all going to learn from each other's stories. And so just know that even if one other person benefits from listening to you share your story, then that's worth it, because your story is different to mine and we all learn from each other. So I would love to hear from you. Now, depending on what your word for the year is and your goal for your health, maybe you're wanting to really kickstart some of that lifestyle approach to helping you manage your thyroid. Well, the good news is that I run a Kickstart Your Thyroid Wellness Lifestyle Challenge, and the next group intake is on the 1st of February. So you're right in time to join in with us. We look at diet, we look at lifestyle, we look at unwinding, we look at mindset. So if you want to find out more information about that, just head to annabellebateman.com/kickstart. I'll pop the link in the show notes, but it is a fabulous opportunity to, with like-minded people to really look at taking that lifestyle approach. So head to that website, annabellebateman.com/kickstart. It's only $47 for the 30 days. So I would love for you to join in. Have a great fortnight, everyone. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Let's Talk Thyroid. I would love it if you would subscribe to the podcast and share it with others that you know with thyroid problems. Let's get the message out there. If you'd like to connect with me further, the best place to do that is via my website, annabellebateman.com. From there, you'll be able to join my Facebook group, book a strategy session with me, download my freebie, and access any show notes for this episode. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
The information presented and discussed in this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease and should not be used as a substitute for proper advice from a qualified professional.